Haskell, welcome to the Take Flight podcast.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Really well, yeah. Friday, so it's been a busy week, but yeah, all good, mate. All good. How are you?
Well, just keeping shit is busy. Oh, I don't allowed to swear, but I have now anyway. Who cares? Just trying to keep busy as always. Really, my first house track is out today. On pre-order today. I've done a couple of presentations this week. I'm just trying to train hard, keep my head on. I'm trying to think what else, and that's it. I'm training my dog, who's not very well today, but to fetch and return and trying to knacker him out. But other than that, mate, just the same, stuck in the same lockdown vortex like everybody else is.
Yeah, you've been busy though, haven't you? Congrats on the release of the track as well.
Thank you.
I will also say thank you for this because it's been absolutely superb. You can see I've got about 50 pages left there. Your book, what a flanker. So yeah, mate, it was brilliant. I bet you enjoyed writing it.
I loved it. Listen, I've been blown away by kind of the response to it. It's bizarrely, it's going to sound a bit wanky, but it's kind of my fourth book, but the one that I enjoy more than anything, because the other ones were kind of health and fitness and body transformation plans, and this has been mega. And the feedback I've sort of been really blown away by. You know, for it to become a Sunday Times bestseller was cool. I've got another book deal off the back of it, which is great. Which will mean that hopefully I will. Make a few more people laugh. And it kind of happened quite nicely actually during lockdown, because one of the interesting things for me is so many people who don't read are reading it and sort of saying, I haven't read a book since I was 10, and that's for me is quite important. And I also think the fact we've got an audio book as well. So for people who are super lazy, but for some reason, I don't know why they'd want my voice in their head, but apparently they do.
No, I think it's good. Given you've got podcasts as well, it's a natural transition, isn't it, for people who are listening to you on the podcast to get the information there as well.
Yeah, I mean, look, in the podcast stuff, it's interesting. I mean, everybody's now sort of doing the podcast thing and really getting into it. We had an original podcast called House of Rugby, and then we left that and we started a new one called The Good, the Bad, the Rugby, and that's kind of gone really well, and that's changed a lot of people's perceptions about me, which was great. And then I did one with my wife called Couples Quarantine, and then I do one called What a Flanker based on the book, which is actually really nice. It's kind of my attempt at a very poor man's attempt at doing what Joe Rogan does, just trying to interview people that I'm interested in and fascinated in. And we've got some brilliant guests for series 2. We've got Carl Cox coming on, we've got Jack Whitehall, Jimmy Carr. And obviously, I'm going to try not to fanboy over all of them, but I can't promise.
No, it's brilliant. That's actually the one that I listen to more than the others, is your What a Flanker one. So this is actually the final episode in season 11 of Take Flight. So you'll be the...
Bloody hell. Season 11?
Yeah, I know. I started nearly 4 years ago, so...
Turn it up, mate. Season 11. And you're finishing with me. What the hell, surely you could have got someone better, couldn't you?
No, you're brilliant, mate. I've been wanting to talk to you for ages. So, well, look, going down that path, this is called Take Flight for a reason. It's about performance and helping people to reach high levels of performance. We also talk about how people can feel more purposeful in their life, because I think the two are very closely linked. But there's also a more literal meaning of taking flight, which is that leap of faith. And a lot of the times that is linked to, I think, like being yourself and following what you feel was the right thing for you. And you were saying your podcast has been great for allowing people to understand the real you, getting a different perspective of who you are. And that's what I got from reading the book. And I was really, really impressed by some of the things that you did. As an example, going to France and playing France, right? And then going to Japan and going to New Zealand and just walking a completely different path to the traditional English rugby player. So I suppose to start with this way, if we dive in there, I'd love to hear about that decision-making process, actually what made you do it.
Yeah, I mean, look, I've always been kind of a firm believer in if I was to drop dead tomorrow, I would always want to have given everything my best shot. I don't believe that this is dress rehearsal, and I'm sure you've got some super religious people who listen to this podcast who think they're going to come back as like a penguin, or they're going to go to the paradise or heaven, or maybe we're going to have multi-lives or it's multi-dimensional. I'm pretty sure it's not. And I'm pretty sure this is all you're going to get. And I think so much what we do is driven by fear and concern for other people's opinions. And, and there's kind of a few different people in life. There's the sniper who waits for the perfect shot, who spends all their time lining it up, checking the wind, and fires once every now and then. Then you get the mad bloke, probably a bit like me, who's got a minigun, who's just shooting everything, spraying everything, doing everything. And then you sort of got the more calculated people, and normally the more calculated people are kind of the most successful. And I decided that once my contract was up and I was getting messed around, just to broaden my horizons and just speak to other people. And I kind of came across, I was made an offer by Stade Francais, and I discovered that I was, I could go and live in Paris. I'd travelled, but not to that extent. I'd been kind of quite institutionalized. I had very kind of close relationship with my parents. I never lived abroad. And the opportunity to go and play with some of the best French players in the world, some of the best Italian players in the world, and Argentinians, to live in a different city, to get paid good money to do it. Everyone criticised me and told me not to do it. And yes, did I have moments of like real self-doubt, when the media are calling for you, and saying you're money grabbing and all these other things? Yes. But actually it was the best decision I ever made, because I backed myself and went and did it. And it taught me a lot about myself, whether I was going to, bow down to pressure. Could I dig in? Was I going to be as professional as I could be? Because France was amazing. The French are brilliant people, but they're not as professional. They certainly weren't at that time as the UK clubs. And that meant that I had to maintain my standards, because, if you go for the standards of the slowest man, you're going to fall short. And that was really important for me. And it's just been the same kind of motto that I've always had in life, is to really kind of branch out, to try and explore things, purely because I want to be the person in the room that's had stories, that's had life experience, that's done everything they can do. And I think we each get blessed with talents, and some people have limited talent, I think, pretty much like myself. But if you work hard, work with a plan, seek out good people who you aspire to be like, ask for their help, are self-aware enough to take criticism, you're always going to get on. And that's what my story's been. And once I'd tasted a bit of a journey in France, I was like, why would you not want to go and try and play in Super 15? That's only one player I knew had done that. I wanted to do it. I took absolutely, zero cash to go and do it, but it was a chance to go and live in New Zealand, in the South Island, in a little house on the sea in St. Clair. Like, why would you not want to do that? And I went there on my own. I went to France on my own. And then to do the New Zealand gig, you have to have something, because of the different times of the seasons. A Japan sort of thing in the middle to fill the gap. And I went and lived in Tokyo for 6 months and got to play and rode around a little bicycle like a lot of the Japanese, and got to explore, and got on the bullet train, and 2 hours later in Kyoto or Kobe or wherever it was. And it was just some of the best days of my life. And the only problem with all these things is I don't regret anything, but you have to appreciate how rare those moments are, and live it, and live actually in the moment. And it's a hard thing to do, because, a lot of people, when rugby boys go on tour, for example, so they go on tour in Australia, they get there and they start missing their family, missing their kids, which is fine, which is a natural human instinct. But my concern with it is that you spend all your time wishing to be home and not enjoying what you should have at the moment. And that's kind of the way I've always approached things.
Yeah, that's massive. The presence thing is so key, isn't it? You miss those things, and you might enjoy it on reflection, be like, oh, that was a really good tour, or that was a really good holiday, or whatever it was. But if you weren't there actually in the moment.
Now, I can't abide people like when I did I'm a Celebrity, got to the jungle and everyone just wants to go home or get out and finish it. I was like, no. Yes, obviously when it got appallingly boring and they weren't feeding you, that kind of mental, toughness is hard to get through. But actually the rest of it was a great opportunity. It's a TV show. You're being paid to be on TV, to do stuff like, it was fun. And people going, oh, I can't wait to be out there. Oh God, it's so hard. It's like, nah. You're being paid some TV show. They ain't going to kill you. Just get on with it. And I think that's, for me, my kind of motto to what I do and how I am. And I think it's really important. But it means that you have to get that balance right, because if you constantly live in the moment, which I do, you never get overexcited for stuff, but you equally don't get too down about stuff. But it means that, like my partner, my wife, Chloe, she's always really upset that I don't get super psyched about something, because she always needs a goal to look forward to. I don't. I just wake up, plan what I'm going to do today, do a to-do list, and go. She needs a goal in the future, and she's like, "We're going to Dubai," and I'm like, "Are we?" Like, she goes, "Yeah, you booked it." I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I haven't really thought about it, but what's your most exciting thing? What are you most looking forward to?" I'm like, "I'm not looking forward to it. I just when I'm on the way to the airport, I'm going, and I'm in holiday mode. That's when I'll give it conscious thought. But there's no point giving it thought until it's actually a thing."
That's interesting, House, because I feel like a lot of the people I speak to, especially from the sports world, right, they're drilled and trained to think about either the weekend or future events, or winning the Premiership or whatever it might be.
Mm.
So I just think it's really fascinating that you've been able to not be conditioned by that and be very present. I wonder how you've managed to do it. Is there anything you do specifically?
Look, I always spent time working with a sports psychologist, probably from the age of 17 to 35, an amazing lady called Dr. Jill Owen. And I went to see her because I didn't have a lot of a confidence issue. Self-confidence was a real problem, even though people couldn't compute that, because I was always like gobbing off and standing up and doing presentations and talking to people. People, wouldn't think you would have self-doubt. And also because of that, people don't compliment you because they think, oh, he's so far up his own arse, he doesn't need to be given kind of compliments or whatever. And I went to see her, and one of the things we worked on was just living in the moment, was taking care of business yourself. And we live in a quite a heavy excuse-based culture now, and the worst thing about excuse-based culture is we've now got a load of fuckwits who are like cheerleading like mediocrity and excuses, and that's why people don't get on in life, because the worst thing you can do, and sometimes I love having, I call it a sappuccino, like a cappuccino, but sappuccino, sapping, i.e. just like moaning about everything. Like, there's nothing better than sitting down with the lads and going, fucking hell, the coach is shit, training shit, you're shit, everything's shit, I can't be bothered. There's not, like, people, like humans like doing that, we like moaning and whinging, but the worst thing you could do with it is actually then not do anything else, to just sit there moaning and negative. But the problem we've got ourselves into now with all this kind of things is that we, you walk into a room and someone's like, oh, so-and-so's been horrible to me. If they said I'm fat or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but you are fat. Like, so, you are, like, don't like, you can't hide behind it. You are. But we don't do that. We go, oh, you're shaming this person, you're shaming that person, or so-and-so's got an opinion, like, oh, you're wrong. But we're just conditioning people to accept mediocrity. We're just saying that, it's okay to be shit. It's okay to be average. It's okay to be unhealthy. It's okay to be moany. It's okay to be lazy. And what you need to do is have people that are going to tell you how it is. But you also need to have this ability to recognize that yourself. And there's a great motto, I keep saying the word motto, but there's a great thing that I follow that my dad told me early on. And he's not always the best person to follow advice from, but this kind of stuck with me, was you can lie to everyone else, but you can't lie to yourself. Mm. And how many people walk and complain about their relationships, complain about their lives, complain about their body. And they say to people, oh, I'm hardly a thing. You're like, well, you must have. Of course you have. Like, fucking, how do you think you got that big? Like, like someone the other day I was talking to said, oh, they were only eating vegetable soup, and I was like, there's no way you're eating vegetable soup. Like, it's impossible. Even to calories, there's no way you're doing that. But we tell these little lies, and then we have people around us who make it okay to lie and to be, and to get away with stuff. And what you need in life is sometimes someone to go, oh, poor you. But then you need other people to go, listen, let's be a straight talker. And I learned pretty early on through dealing with being present that, if you want to make a success of yourself, you have to work on yourself. You have to make yourself accountable. If you didn't train and you didn't perform, it's your fucking fault. If you've got no money, it's your fault. If you don't like your life, it's your fault. If you don't like your body, it's your fault. And there is nobody out there that's going to like ride over the hill on a white night and go, oh my God, here's £1 million. Here's the body you want. Here's the life you want. We're so sorry for any inconvenience, of course. No, you're just going to stay miserable. And I think it's something that I really pride myself on. And I'm not impervious to moaning. I'm not impervious to having bad days. I have moments where I'm like, fuck, what am I doing in my life? What's this? This is shit, lockdown shit. But then I quickly go back to my mind thinking, right, what can I control? What can I actually look after? Okay, I can, I could probably launch this podcast. I could write this. I could do this. I could eat better. I could make better choices. I could have some discipline. But, imagine I was surrounded by people that just went, no, it's okay. Have another chocolate cake. Have another drink. Have another smoke. Have another whatever it is. And that's the problem is and now we've got people in the media and people online just championing all this shit, going, like, I sound like I'm attacking fat people. I'm not, because it's the most extreme version. Putting really unhealthy people on the front covers of magazines going, oh, it's just so good. It's so good, like body empowerment. No, you're confusing the two things. If someone like is very comfortable with how they are and they're like obviously an extreme, so extremely thin or eating disorder, they're extremely thick or extremely big, I'm really happy that you're happy about how you look. That's great. But let's not put it as a blueprint and go, this is, aspire to be like this, because they're unhealthy. If people go, how do you know they're unhealthy? I was go, because you can see they're unhealthy. Like, you can see, like, it's like that woman from The Chase, the the woman, she got all her tests done and said she's really healthy. No. She's obese. She's going to have visceral fat around her organs. She's not going to be very well, and it's going to lead to later in life complications unless you do it. Same thing if you're under eating, anorexic, bulimic. If you are smoking and drinking in excess, and all this kind of stuff. All these things are going to have it. It's a bit like putting a crack addict on in front of a magazine, and a crack addict going, "I'm just really comfortable. I'm a crack addict." Everyone going, "Oh my God, you're so brave. Well done." But they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that. So, and that's how stupid we are. And people just go, "No, don't be mean to crack addicts. It's fine. You're a crack addict. He's trying. Yeah, he's trying all the fucking crack. He's not trying anything else."
I think do you know what's jumping out at me there is you started that by saying you struggled with your self-confidence as a teenager.
Yeah.
And the number one way to develop your self-confidence is by keeping promises to yourself and having that discipline.
Yes.
And I think that where a lot of what you've just said there comes from
yeah,
is because when you do that for yourself, your bullshit detector is then incredibly high. So you can that's all right. So you can see, when other people aren't perhaps as disciplined as you are.
Yeah.
What
that's the thing. And do you know what? It's not a lot of times. Sometimes this advice online, this self-help stuff, it takes away the human element. The human element is we are weak. We do give in. We do have bad days, and you're entitled to have bad days. And men in particular, and this all kind of bravado factor that we don't talk about our problems, we don't have bad days, and we just tell our mates we're fine when we're absolutely falling to pieces. It's madness. And you are right. The bullshit detector is big, but I think it's where people pretend they're impervious, to it. Where I make mistakes all the time and have bad days or good days or have moments of weakness. But it's being how quickly to be able to go and address that, like you said, with the self-discipline. And I think also it's the sporting background. A lot of people if you just go to a normal public gym, a lot of people don't know how to train. They don't know how to train. They don't know how to train hard, and they don't know what suffering is in respect to kind of putting your body through stuff or testing yourself. So, and also they don't understand doing that in a team environment where you're accountable for each other. Where if you let your teammate down, that's bad. If you don't toe the party line, that's bad. If you think you're above the team, that's bad. Most people in life don't have that. We're kind of quite individualized, and that's why you always see it on those kind of TV shows and stuff. Even like I'm a Celebrity, people are like you can't. If I was like I was in a team on I'm a Celebrity, if I acted as if I was in a team on I'm a Celebrity, I would have told a few people to fucking sort it out. And we would have, because you would have just had a meeting, gone, "You're not doing this, you're not doing that, you're lazy, you don't stop moaning, you're negative, you're affecting the team morale. All you do is this, but you don't do that because on TV, because real world people can't handle real talk because it breaks people. And and I'm not saying you should always need to be harsh, but you need to understand that. And I think that's what separates, sports people or people who've committed to things and some, successful individuals just appreciate that often you have to be more than yourself. And a lot of people in real life don't do that because they just go to work and they're part of a team in the office, but don't really give a shit about the office. They don't really care about the job. And they don't really have it. They don't have their own self-discipline, but no one's pushing them on it.
I remember Kobe Bryant used to say leadership's a lonely place just because of that. Because if you're the one who's got to probably say things that people aren't wanting to hear, and
Mate, of course,
confrontation and all that as well.
Of course, you've got to call people out. You've got to call people out. I mean, listen, you see, you got Jordan's picture behind you. On The Last Dance. Not one of those blokes said that Jordan was a good lad, was a lovely person, was like, "Oh my God, best mate." They said one of the best to ever do it, one of the toughest leaders, one of the toughest competitors. And that he did that, and he wasn't interested about making friends. He was interested in really setting standards, and brave leaders and good leaders are prepared to call people out. The best leaders can call people out, but understand in what ways to do it. It's not just about throwing a load of fucks into someone in front of a load of people. It's understanding, how does that bloke tick? So do I need to say this one-on-one? Do I need, to do the carrot? Do I need the stick? Do I need to approach it differently? Do I need to talk to a mate? And, do I need to, as a team, do I need to address it in an aggressive manner? Do I need to suggest an idea so they come up with it? There's so many nuances that a lot of people just don't forget. And they see certain players, like this current couple of players in the England squad at the moment. Everyone's like, they should be captain. You're like, no. you don't know what you're talking about, because just because they're best player, they would not make a very good captain. But the people don't understand it because they don't know what leadership actually is.
Yeah, and man management, understanding individuals. Everyone's unique in the way that they learn, get motivated. I think I'd love to talk a little bit more about the self-doubt and your travels in a moment. But while we're on this subject, I was really impressed with the way you spoke in your book about, it was your assessment actually of Stuart Lancaster and how he had the Bill Walsh book tucked under his arm his entire coaching period in England. And I actually, just for a bit of context, I played football in America for a period, and my coach was from Manchester, and he did the same thing with Alex Ferguson's book. And he just used to bollock me, and I was a player who needed an arm around the shoulder. And I still have a bit of bitterness about my experience and my time over there still now. But I just thought it was so fascinating to hear that viewpoint. You know, one of the best rugby teams in the world, one of the best players in yourself in the world, and a coach there that's trying to bring people together and make it work. And he's still leaning on this book and not looking outside of this manual, as you said in the book, you know, far outdated, from a different sport, different culture, different group of people. So yeah, just fascinating to hear that.
There's no authenticity. So look, there are always people that have done what you want to do and have done it better, and there's always people to aspire to be. But what you got to understand is that anyone who's recounting any story, I think, like, look at Tom Brady as a really good example. 7 rings, right? He's obviously turned into and has subsequently learned like methodologies on how to do that. But where he started, he was a skinny, kind of irrelevant guy, and it could have gone either way. There's a lot of chance. There's a lot of things that could have happened that could have been very differently. When people go back and sort of describe, or he would say he was doing an autobiography, you're not going to turn around and say, half some of this stuff was chance and I just guessed and I did it. It's all got to be part of like the rich tapestry of how he did it, and everything's kind of sexed up a little bit and everything else. It's the same thing with like Bill Walsh. Interesting enough, because I read that book, is that the first part, his win record was exactly the same, I think, or near enough, the same as the bloke who got thrown out the year before, right? So he could have just been fucked out of it and gone, I'm not involved anymore. But the management, for whatever reason, stuck with him. And then subsequently, those following years, he won those 4 Super Bowls in 3 years, or 4 back-to-back in the dynasty, whatever it was. And it made a big difference. But when you're recounting it, he's talking about, I used to go around hammering everyone for not tucking their shirt in because it was about standards. If they weren't going to do the attention to detail on the small things, then they weren't going to bother about the big things. And Stuart Lancaster was great, but he was trying to apply a model onto people without taking the people into account. And that's the problem. It's a different era, different generation, different people, different freedoms, different, everything about it was different. But you can take ideas. So you could take the idea of like maintaining standards. That's great. But you need to see what's in front of you and interact. And what he forgot was that the people are the most important thing in that organization. And that, interestingly enough, what people don't talk about with Bill Walsh's book is that they fucking hated him. The players hated him so much so that he actually called them up before he died to apologize to a lot of them for how they treated. They hated, and they won the Super Bowl after he left, just to almost to show him that it wasn't down to him. They didn't like him that much. And I think sometimes we talked about Jordan, you don't have to be friends with everyone. And I didn't expect Stuart Lancaster to come out having tea, but just, if you're so task focused and you have the goals and objectives, but you forget the people, you forget the balance, how important the cognitive development of your players are and their well-being. And just things like how he interacted in the squad it just wasn't right, and also, you can't talk about leadership and don't put leaders in there. And if you fill the squad with full of, what I describe as vanilla thrillers, guys who are like really conformist, that looked, great in a shirt, but had nothing about them, that doesn't breed success. You need to have strength of character to manage the maverick people, to encourage diversity, but also know when to be in charge. And I just think you can't follow someone else's plan to the letter, but you can take ideas of for example, Bill Walsh, when he came into the organization, he cleaned everybody out that was to do with the old regime. So I can understand that. You don't, if I was to take over the coaching, would I want anybody that had been there before? Maybe not, purely because, for some people it's useful because you want to capture the heritage of what the club was about before you came involved into it, which is sometimes important. But actually, I don't want people talking in dark corners who've been in 2 regimes, because if someone survived a load of regimes, why are they surviving? Is it because they're all things to all men? Is it because they've got like Machiavellian plots in the background? Will they knife you like they knifed the bloke before you? It's a bit like I'm trying to think what movie I was watching recently. Oh, I tell you what, the morning show.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've seen the morning show with Jennifer Aniston and Steve Carell. Unbelievable, really good, like incredible. Yeah, like really good. It's quite heavily about feminism in a place, and it's basically a rip-off of not a rip-off. It's basically an example of Matt Lauer, who was an American presenter who got done for not sexual assault. He was just drilling loads of girls, women, but utilizing his power, and it was basically the abuse of power. He never did anything wrong, but he also didn't do anything right. And it's about that. And it's interesting, someone in there tries to, get rid of the current person in charge to do it. And sort of, I said to Chloe at the time, I said, do you not think the bloke that he's trying to help out is going to go, hold on a minute? If you did that to him and you've been working there for 20 years, what's to stop you doing it for me? I'd let him help me, and then he'd be the first person I'd fire. And I think with with Stuart, he cleaned out everybody, which was fine, but he didn't get the balance right of his coaching staff. He didn't appreciate that he was quite unapproachable, and then he filled the other coaching staff with other unapproachable people. And then, so you understand that some players like me, like from the sounds of it, need an arm around you. There was no one to put an arm around you, and that was tricky.
Yeah, I mean, something you talked about there was conforming, right? And clearly from your journey, you've not been one to conform. I've had Jay Morton on, who you smile like that. I had Jay Morton on, who I know was on your podcast as well.
Yes.
Eddie Hearn, Ollie Ollerton, another SAS who does wins DS, like all these people, and a bunch of others, because this is kind of the theme of this show. None of them conform and disagree with conforming, and that's why I left the corporate world. I was in the city working there to do this full time. I'll just be interested to hear how being a non-conformist has benefited you. What have you got from that?
I'm not intentionally a non-conformist, because I think sometimes people, they're like, I work outside the boundaries, I'm difficult. I think it's not about that. I think for me, it's about having an opinion, being constantly aware that you need to self-develop. So if you're outside the bounds or a bit of a rebel and you just can't grow and you're just stubborn in your ways and you're outside of it, you're non-conformist just because you're an asshole or you're difficult, that's not the way to be. I think if I've done things that I think I'm inherently selfish, like a lot of sports people are. So I've done what I felt suited me, but I've also done it with an open mind to develop myself, to know that I'm far from the finished article and that I can always get better. And I split my life up into loads of different areas that can get better, whether that's your diet, your nutrition, your public speaking, your podcasting, your filming, whatever it is, you can always improve. And I think for me, I just ended up having an opinion. Stuff that I felt strongly about, I would have an opinion on. Stuff that I wasn't that interested in, I would back away from. But I always did it with the spirit of my team first. And I wanted to enjoy life. And I didn't understand why people were so objective, find it so difficult to comprehend why you could have a personality, why you could appear on a talk show, travel here, dress like this, do whatever, broaden your horizons and still be a rugby player, and still be a professional and be dedicated. And I think it's just lazy from people because you don't fit the mold. Because I heard so many coaches like, how can you be doing this, this, and this, and still be super dedicated and professional? And it's just that was difficult for me, and I've subsequently become like that. And actually, it's in retirement, I've just had more freedom. I've just been able to do more, say more. And I truly believe as well that if common sense, which we've sort of lost a lot in the world, dictates that what you're saying is correct, and there's an element to it, and you've got to break a few eggs to make an omelette, and that's why I would never be in government, because you are damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. And we've now gone into a world where we're taking into account everybody's opinion, and if you've met everybody. Like a lot of people, if the average IQ in the UK is 100, that's the average. Like there is a load of people underneath that. And it's like, yeah, I'm not sure that interested anyway. I don't think we need to know what, Colin, number 25, thinks about this news story, because I don't think Colin knows where they're part. It doesn't matter. And I've just always tried to be like that. I tried to have that common sense and tried to be a good team man first and foremost. But equally, don't sit with have coffee with the lads. Go to London. Go to do some work stuff. Accept that offer to do a TV thing. Write a book. Create content, whatever it might be. Do people like, oh, you're not going to DJ? Well, I opened for Craig David and Ibiza. I was like, okay, I've done that. People, oh, you're not going to be able to. I did that. oh, well, we're not sure you can do that. I was like, well, if you tell me I can't do it, I'm just going to go and do it anyway.
Challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. But I also, it does mean you make mistakes and you try things, business opportunities and stuff that just aren't going to work. And if you just rush into stuff. But that's how I've always been. And it does get you into trouble. And if I had been much more conformist, I think I may have been more successful in certain areas, but I wouldn't have been myself. And do you know what? I wouldn't have been able to keep the charade up for long enough. That's the problem. That I would not have been able to keep pretending that I'm something that I'm not. And that's one thing to always consider,
It's absolute gold, mate. I love that. And why would we want to be anything other than ourselves?
People do. People are. It's like people always, like if someone says to you, you have to fit in, you have to be like this, it's fine. But you're going to get caught out immediately. That's why I always like these celebrities and stuff. It's like my wife always says to me, she goes, if you were less controversial, and I'm not saying I'm controversial like I'm not like Katie Hopkins controversial, or like I'm not a secret racist or anything like that. But if I was less, so I didn't swear as much, or I was more conformist, I think I'd be further along. I think I'd be more successful. Like, we have the biggest rugby podcast in the UK and in the world, really. We do a lot of sporting stuff. I know rugby's a minority sports, but I get no mainstream work, really, none at all. And we get more people watching or listening and watching the podcast than you get for a normal Premiership game. But we don't get any work because I think I'm seen as controversial. A lot of people don't know what's going to come out my mouth, and not in like a I'm like a rebel or I'm not calculated. Because the worst thing is I actually know 99% of the time what I'm saying, but sometimes I don't give a fuck because if it's going to get a laugh, or it's going to make, it's going to be interesting and it's what I truly believe, then I'll say it. But we don't want that now. We now got into such a corporate world where everybody's chasing their tails, panicking. So I did a post for Amazon. Right, we did a funny thing for this campaign where I pretended to be an Amazon delivery driver, right? And we filmed it. Basically, I went and visited the other guys from the podcast houses, and I was dressed as an Amazon uniform in an Amazon van. Obviously, they don't have vans and uniforms, but it was a whole funny skit because they were streaming the autumn internationals that have just gone. And the feedback in the room, and now where we live in a room of like 20 corporate people, and they get a video, and they all feel like they've got to have an opinion instead of just going, do you know what, we really like it. The feedback came back from this thing, and that this was just somebody fucking pulling something out of our ass. Went, oh look, we really like it and it's brilliant, but we just we think it might be a little bit too serious. We're a bit concerned that people might think James actually works for Amazon. That was the feedback, and you're like, you're what? What you like? How? I was wearing my hat like the guy from Off the Buses, like the side, like I can't what his name is now. Like there's that 8.5 hot mum or whatever it is. One of those fucking Frank Spencer. I look like Frank Spencer, right? Delivering Amazon packages to like my fellow co-host Alex Payne's house, which is actually Jamin Dornan's mansion. Like all this kind of stuff was like set up, and that was the feedback, and we were just like, fuck off. Like we're putting it up there, and when I put it up there, people are like, if you get one negative comment, like, take it down. You're like, no. If you ask a room of 100 people a question, you're going to get at least 60 different answers. And you're going to get answers to questions you didn't even ask. So stop worrying about stuff. Like big brands are like, oh, as soon as you put anything out there, like, oh, it's been a bit negative comment. Like I did this thing about McDonald's, and Grenade, my sponsor, are brilliant. But they were like, oh, you've been asking to keep gyms open, and you've also been promoting fast food. And I was like, sorry, what you can't do both, and it's fast food makes you fat, does it? Like just all this kind of stuff, and it's the fact that people were panicking. And I looked at their page, 5 people, but online 5 sound like 500. And even personally, you do 100 comments, 1,000 comments, you look at it, you get 2 negatives, like, oh, maybe I should take it down. Like my wife, I'm aware I'm talking a lot, but my wife posted something, a picture of her and her dad yesterday, and her dad's obviously Richard Madeley out of Richard and Judy off the TV, and like she posted it, and she said, "Oh, missing my dad," right, or something like that. And someone put underneath it, "Oh, good to see you missing your mum as well." And it's like, are you fucking serious? Like, and if that was a company, people go, "Oh, negative. Maybe I should have put a picture of my mum." It's like, but people are perpetually offended. There is a gang of people who are professionally offended, and we don't need to worry about them. We don't care. They are the same people that set up accounts and comment on newspapers online. I guarantee you, if you could press a button now, and anybody who'd ever commented on a newspaper died, boop, the world would be, I reckon, about 50% better overnight. The intelligence level will go through the roof. Negativity would go down. Trolling would go down. It would be possible. Like go on the Daily Mail online. Look at the comments. Like it's just, mate, they are toxic pond scum.
Yeah, it's why I don't read the media, to be honest. But look, I think for me, when I read the book particularly, right, if I think about the new perspective it gave me of you, I already was an admirer of what you'd done as a player, and
come on, you, hey. It's so nice to me.
No, honestly, mate, it's British Lions, and I think for me more so though it was the travelling abroad and playing abroad. So when I talk about being a non-conformist, it's things like that, going and playing in different clubs. It's things like seeing Stuart Lancaster with Bill Walsh's book under his arm and not just taking his leadership advice, going, I'm going to fucking read the book myself and see why this is playing out like it is, and having an opinion. Because I think, I've had so many professional athletes, from Super Bowl winners to Premier League winners to world champion boxers, and their voices are oppressed. I mean, from all of them, if any of them are allowed to have a voice, it's boxers, but they're encouraged to be anything but themselves to try and sell tickets. But I think you stood out as someone who almost refused to have their voice oppressed. So yeah, I just think it's great that you did do that. But also interested, you said you would have been more successful. Do you mean as a player? Do you mean?
I don't think I would have. I don't think I could have made much more of my career. I just mean that I would have had more media opportunities. I would have been seen as more palatable. I may have had a few more caps, for stuff, just because my face would have fitted better. I would have been seen as somebody that was more trusted, and I don't know, because I have this infectious desire to enjoy life and have fun. And I relish those moments of like being in a team and chatting shit. And I'm not a prankster, because that you start along that path and you stitch yourself up for life. But I would, we would sit around enjoying stuff, have fun, take the piss out of coaches. Everyone was get hammered. And just some people just can't stomach that, really. And I think, as I said in the book, I was meant to be, I was kept kind of on, I felt not valued. I felt not part of the squad. I felt like they weren't really interested. I felt like I was on borrowed time. Oh, and then, by the way, can you come and amuse all the troops when we've lost and we're all out of it and stuff? And it's like, well, I can, because I fucking love attention. But the point is, you can't like lock me away in a cupboard and say that I'm like, don't bring him out, don't offend anyone. We don't know what you're going to do. Just keep it down. Oh, and by the way, could you stand up and do a presentation? And stuff like that. And then, and then when they ask you to do a presentation, they'll have the reaction like, oh, you might have gone a bit too far. You're like, don't ask me to do something unless you want to expect what's going to happen. But look, I'm not bitter about those things because I said I've been true to myself. Mm-hmm. I just think that, the fans and the media, they want somebody that they can control and calm. That's why I admire, for certain aspects, obviously, like, Floyd Mayweather and wife beating aside, or Conor McGregor, all the other stuff he does to one side, because they talk the talk, they walk the walk. And yes, like, for example, Conor McGregor's lost a couple of times, and people are even more eager to see him fail. That's human nature. If you don't talk it up and you're super humble, and you get beaten, oh, what a good guy. He's so lucky he tried his hard. If you're like, fuck you, I'm going to take over the world, the Mac Daddy, all this kind of stuff, and then you get filled in, everyone's like, told you, you're such a prick. And that's why, like, it's interesting that someone like Khabib is like, hands down one of the best fighters, that's ever been. What an absolute boy. But, does he have charisma? No. Does he have marketability? No. Is it that? Is that right? Is that the right thing? Well, that's another conversation. Mm-hmm. That's another bit of factor. We have to deal with what we have. And, he doesn't have that. And will he earn as much money as Conor McGregor? No. Will the purists and people love him and everything? I said, yes. Mm-hmm. But, 9 times out of 10, you're going to tune in to see Conor McGregor. And most of those people want to see him get filled in. Most of the people just want to be part of the hype. And that is life in kind of a nutshell, and how we do that. But people who aren't happy with themselves, that's why trolling such thing, aren't happy with themselves. They reflect and go after other people because they're not content, and they want to chop people down. And actually, we do have a bit of tall poppy syndrome. In America, if you do well, people want you to do well. In England, if you do well, we all want to fuck you up. We want to cut you down. We want to break you. We want to break you, and then we want to publish your mental breakdown online. We want to hound you. So ideally, you kill yourself, or we relive it, and then we want to build you back up again, and then we want to catch you out and fuck you up again. And that's how we do it. Tyson Fury, Caroline Flack, whoever these people, name them all. We want to do it. We want to build you up, cut you down. I mean, things like Tyson Fury, like I admire Tyson Fury, but again, where people get so confused, it's they combine, they come forward with their religious views, the gay bashing and stuff. It's like, fuck's sake, how when are we going to learn? Like, same with Israel Folau. It's like, by all means, have your beliefs, be part of your like mad church thing where you read the exact letter to the letter of the law to the Bible. But it's just the fact that these people pick and choose these nuanced bits, and they don't take into all account the stuff. And it's like, I find that all very astute. I find it very irritating as well. Why? Like there's a bloke used to be in Oxford Circus, used to stand there with a loudspeaker, and every time he'd walk past, go, if you go, yeah, you're if you're not sinning, sorry, if you're not winning, you're sinning. You're a sinner, not a winner. And I was like, looking at him, he goes, your body's your career, but you're sinning. I was like, fine. That is the, he has read the Bible and gone, right, I'm going to spread Lord's word, and he feels like it's going to gateway, he's going to go to heaven. That's fine. But when athletes and people in the public eye spout it and just go, it's just my religious beliefs, it's fine. It's just madness. Like he ruined it, but we've sort of brushed it under the carpet now because of his mental health journey and everything else that. And it's good old Tyson Fury now. Just whatever you do, don't let him near Pride in London.
Well, I mean, you've obviously had a lot of practice, and you've built that mental strength, I suppose, to deal with a lot of that stuff. I'd love to go back to it was Dr. Jill Owen, you said, wasn't it? Your sort of, what is she, a psychologist?
Psychologist, yeah. I mean, I think she does do a lot of stuff in sport, but yeah, I think it's just a general psychologist, I think.
Yeah. So you started in your teens when you did that. Again, that's something that's quite, probably at the time anyway, it was quite unique to do, and I think you paid for it.
Still at the time now. It's still, I did. Yeah, it's still at the time now unique because it's the one thing that people just don't do. I mean, we leave. Well, you carry on. Sorry, I can interrupt you, but
right.
For me, it's like it's the one side of the coin that we just don't ever visit. Like most people, if I told you, listen, you'd be better at football if you wore these sneaks, if you ate this food, if you drank this drink, you do it. If I said, by the way, you're probably 30% better if you talk to psychology, the mental side, you'd be like, where do I buy those trainers from? And you and that's everybody's, and that is the standard. That's the standard thing. And I'm, now everyone's getting sports science. The path is narrowed, and people are getting as fit and strong as each other. The one margin and area for development is the mental side, and it's still. You put a hand up in the change room. So I put a hand up in the change room all those years ago. Who was talking to a therapist? I'd probably be the only one. And I went there purely because it's my godfather's wife. We had a conversation, and he said, I think you'd really benefit. I think she could help you performance. And I was like, oh, no, I haven't got any problems. Like, no one's diddled me when I was younger. I've got no drama. And he went, no, it's just not about that. And it was just purely about performance. And then as that emerged, it was like, actually, do you know what? I don't have a lot of confidence in myself, when it comes to rugby, and I take criticism badly. And how do I deal with criticism? How do I deal with critical coaches? How can I, when you're playing 20 games a season, how do you prepare mentally for 20 games a season? If you're tired, if you're injured, if your missus is pissing you off, if you're falling out with your family, whatever, how do you switch on? And all these little tools that she taught me, and it's something you have to hammer and go back. And visualization, how important visualization is. That I think they lock these prisoners up. They did visualization every day to improve their golf without playing, and when they came out, they each improved their handicap without ever doing it. All through special forces soldiers, visualize the whole time what they're doing, just muscle memory. But we don't do it. You don't do it. But and that for me is really, really astounding. And I got a lot of criticism from it, and I was seen as a bit odd. And when I opened up to coaches about it, they thought I was a head case. And I just, it's madness, really.
It's the one common denominator with every single peak performer that's been on this podcast is that they give attention to the psychological side. Like, they train their minds, they do the visualization, they do, whether it's meditation or whatever practices they need to do,
exactly,
give themselves that. So now, look, again, I think that's great. I'm fascinated to know what she asked you to do. What sort of stuff was she introducing to you to undertake in order to get a tougher mindset?
Can I just do one thing? Sorry.
Yeah.
Hello, mate. Could you leave it on the doorstep, please, bud? Thanks, mate. Sorry, it's the guy from the door. My wife's recording a podcast in the other room.
Oh, really?
DPD driver's delivering something, and I'm like, he's just standing there. They won't leave it normally. So ask a question again. Sorry. I'll put you on the spot now.
No, it's fine. What did I say? It was. Oh yeah, no, just saying, like the standout common denominator for what this will be the 110 episode is that every peak performer gives attention to the mental aspect of whatever it is they're doing, whether they're athletes or business people or whatever they do. But I was just interested in the tangible things that Dr. Jill Owen gave you. Like, what would she get you to practice?
Okay, so the first thing she did was using music as a tool to change your mental state. So we know how important and emotive music is. We've all, walking out, felt, have a, sun shining, hear a tune, you're like, fucking hell, let's get on it, like that. Or you're sitting in a car and you've had a breakup, and Magic FM comes on, and you want to drive into a wall. Do you know what I mean? Because it's all like love song. It's hard. So music has a lot of power for you, and it was utilizing music to change my state. So as soon as I put my tunes on pre-game, it was a carefully curated playlist, which made me feel, I was like, boom, now I'm in game mode. It was utilizing notes. It was utilizing notes on what I wanted to achieve in a game or in a performance or what I was trying to do. But also it was if I ever made errors, it was going back and adjusting the process. Mm-hmm. So, for example, if golf swing, tackle, whatever, strike of the ball, there'll be elements that make up your process to executing that. And once you have been given or guided or seen an expert that says, right, this is how to do it, you know what to do. So when you reflect and miss a tackle, you can go back and see which part of your process was missing. I didn't chase my feet enough. My head wasn't in close enough. Mm-hmm. I didn't have my eyes on the man. I ducked too low. If any one of those isn't right, that when you go and practice, you physically go and practice those things with immaculate process or as best you can, but then you visualize your process and things where, you can do it quite quickly. So I broke my tackling down to, in my head, I just remember it now. I'm playful, but I was thinking about my eyes, where my eyes went, where my feet went, and to attack, right? And that was my last thing. And so if in a game, I'd be thinking, I say to myself, knees. I think knees would drop my height because I'm thinking about the knees, chase my feet, knees, chase my feet. And that's all I would think about. And that was the process. And then you then take that onto like a visualization. So I'm sitting here in a chair, I'd set my phone for like 2 minutes, close my eyes, think about tackles in my head. And if the tackle in my head didn't go right, because you've got opposing forces going, you'll fuck up, miss it. You then think back about that negative tackle, redo it in your head to make it look good. In a game, if you're like worried about dropping the ball, I go back and think in my head, the feeling of the ball coming to my hands and me catching it and those kind of things. And you visualize that. I did that before games, did that on the bus. I utilized watching highlight reels of myself to build confidence, to show that I'd already done it. Because a lot of self-doubt, people are like, oh, I'm never going to do this, never going to achieve that. If you're starting out and it's day one, so if you're 17, and I remember the first meeting, she said, right, can you tell me a time when you felt like you played well? I was like, no, I couldn't. Obviously, as we went through the process and worked through it, there were games that were like set in stone, like concrete markers that were irremovable. So if everybody else calls you a prick, you're shit, there's an undeniable game that you did well. If you've done a podcast, people are like, why are you podcast, mate? But there's an episode where you absolutely killed it, which got critical acclaim. You can't take that away. And it's like those milestones that are really mentally important for me. And I think those work really well. I think, like I said, being very present in the moment, dealing with things, and only worrying about things you can't control. Only worrying about things you can control was a really important one. So you can't control how your coach talks to you. You can't control your coach's opinion of you. You can only do what you can do. And if they still don't like you, there's nothing to do with you. You can only work as hard as you can. You can't make yourself get picked. You can only put yourself in the right position to do that. And that's all you can do. And you can't make the media like you, but you can only put the best version of yourself and stay strong. And as soon as you start going, oh, but so-and-so doesn't like me, I never get any endorsement deals and the media fucking hate me, you got to sit back, check yourself, go, hold on a minute, I don't control any of that. What have I done this week? Have I put my work in? Yes. Have I eaten well? Yes. Have I slept well? Yes. Have I visualized? Yes. Have I done my process? Yes. Have I developed my mind? Yes. Have I done all these things? Yes. Then that's what you can do. But if the answer to any one of those is no, then you haven't done what you're supposed to do, and you go back to the beginning, you do it all again, and that's how you do it. But a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't, I just can't build this. I can't build a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel is the slowest growing thing I've got. It really fucks me off because I really like making content. But my answer thing for it is that and the reason is that I don't do what you're supposed to do on YouTube. Consistent weekly content, 3 different pieces of content, hero content, filler content, something else, over one particular subject, hammer it out all the time. So I've only got myself to blame. So when you're like, my YouTube channel's not growing, I think to myself, well, you've already got yourself to blame, so shut up. Have you done everything you're supposed to do? No. And that's the kind of talk you've got to have. And all those little bits are certainly the top line things that she taught me.
That's brilliant. Like hearing what the internal dialogue is. What was the self-doubt that you had? Like, what were the things you
I
were
just
saying
never.
to
I just
yourself?
didn't think I was very good. I just didn't think I was very good at rugby. I thought I'd make mistakes. I just didn't think I, I had much confidence in the way I was going to play. I didn't have, even when I played well, all I would think about was the negatives. If someone said something really nice, all I think about was the bad comments. I didn't believe I should be there. I thought I was going to get found out. I didn't think I could tackle properly. I didn't think I was all these things that just came around in your head. It's just a constant fight. And for even when I was older, in part of my career, I was shying away from doing things in games. I didn't want to make mistakes. I was terrified of making mistakes, and it meant that and I had to have a talk with myself. And actually, had a good mate of mine, Travis Allen, who's a fitness guy who I started to train with, who did some therapy stuff he's talked about in the book called muscle activation. And it was only because he's a Kiwi, and all Kiwis think they know more about rugby than anyone else, but he is a real keener and knows what he's talking about. Sat down with me and was like, watch a game with me. He goes, what are you doing here? Why are you not getting the ball here? Why are you running here? What are you doing? And he hit me with some home truths, and it was really kind of for me to go, shit, he's actually right. Again, you can lie to everyone else, but you can't lie to yourself. And sometimes when your mate who hasn't played professional rugby starts telling you this stuff, you want to go, fuck off, mate. What do you know? What are you talking about? But I had to have a moment because I got under my skin. I went away and then I just called him up and I was like, do you know what? You're right. And I need to go away and work on that. And that was down to me being scared about making mistakes. So what I tried to do then is think about every game was a highlight reel. I want to have highlight real moments. How do I want to be remembered? If I have to stop playing tomorrow and I was like, being safe and not making mistakes and doing everything, do I remember that guy, or do I want to be remembered as the guy that had the highlight reel? And that's the same approach I think I've taken into life. Is like, do I want to be safe? Do I want to be vanilla? Do I not want to do this? Or do I want to have a highlight reel? And the answer is a highlight reel. So you can now you can turn around and say to me, I'm a published author, published music producer, attempted cage fighter, one month out from the first fight, got cancelled, but I've been in the cage about fucking 40 times, and had a load of tear ups. Have I been a professional rugby player? Yes. Have I traveled around the world? Yes. Do I do corporate speaking? Yes. I've done. There isn't like a box. Do I DJ? Have I DJ in front of 5,000 people in the headline? Yes. Like I've done all these things, and so many of them are like set in stone. So I have the same confidence issues with DJ. Like Chloe, my wife, would be like, "What's wrong now?" But like, "Fuck, I did DJ. Well, I'm not very good," and I hate it. But then I've had moments where I've absolutely killed it, and there's no denying, and that's where you derive your confidence from. It doesn't mean I don't walk around going after I made a mistake and fuck, oh shit at DJ. I don't know why I bother. Like I'm not very good. I'm never going to make it, and everything else. And then you have to just pull yourself together and get on.
Yeah, that's brilliant, man. Those achievements are outstanding. It sounds like, just listening to what you were saying at the beginning of that bit, it's like the classic imposter syndrome, which I think we all deal with, right? On different levels, depending on where you've been. You've been brave enough to push through that a lot of the time, by the sounds of it. And when you're saying the highlight reel, my dad used to say to me, your life museum. So you get to the end of it and you can visualize yourself walking down the corridor, what the picture's going to be, the things that you've done in your life. So creating those moments for yourself.
I love that. It's a great analogy.
Yeah, so I try and think about that a lot. So, yeah, as I was saying, your achievements that you just sort of listed off there are outstanding, mate. How do you set goals around doing these sort of things? I've recently had a chat with someone actually about whether we're goal setting or intention setting. Because, and I might be, tell me if this sounds ridiculous or not, because it's just something that I've thought about recently, but we set goals, and a lot of times we set these goals because we want the emotions that are elicited from achieving them. So it might be going on a British Lions tour or something. You want that because you feel, maybe in your case, I am like validated as a rugby player. I'm one of the best players in the world, So I used to set goals, whether it was material things or financial things, because I thought they were the things that were important. But then when you get them, the emotions don't make you don't feel good at all. In fact, I felt really unfulfilled. So I've started being more intention setting, and everything, all of my intentions around emotions. Like I want to feel happy, I want to feel joyful, I want to feel playful, like all these things that make you feel happy. So yeah, just interested whether you do the same, like getting in front of thousands of people or whatever it is you're doing.
Oh, listen, I completely agree with it. I think it's a really good point of view. I think I'm perpetually unfulfilled, which is my biggest downside of being in a fresh run player. I didn't value what I had while I had it, because I was always on the pursuit of being better, and that's every area of my life. Always, I was always like on to the next thing. How can I get better? Trying to battle that, confidence and also negativity around that. I could have done better. And if you're focused on negativity, it makes you want to work harder. Or sometimes it breaks you. Sometimes it makes you want to hurt. For me, it always wanted to make me work harder. So I've always been unfulfilled. So I've achieved these moments and probably not appreciated them. In retirement, I try to celebrate these moments and really kind of enjoy them. I think it's interesting because I was talking to a new kind of therapist that I was doing some work with, because obviously transition out of rugby is hard and all this other elements. And one thing he said, you're either running from something or running towards something. And he goes, you're either running away because you want to prove this, prove that, show people, like you just said, or you're actually going towards something that you actually really enjoy and want to do. And I was very financially driven. A lot of stuff I'm financially driven, and I've made some good money, not enough to retire on, but I've had those moments. I had a Ferrari, and I was like, this is amazing, and I drove it around for it, and I was like, yeah. I actually don't give a shit about that. Like, I'm like, I don't, if the best thing about it is your car, then what's the point? And it's like, I like it. And it's right. We can't drive that fast. You most likely to kill yourself. So I thought, well, why have I got that? And it's the same thing. I actually value is travel, is eating great food, drinking great, wine or whatever in really cool settings. And those emotions are surrounded by that. Emotions going to see friends and enjoying things. And I enjoy technology, but I also enjoy the elation of performing. And everything I do is about performance. I'm a huge show off, or so my wife tells me. And it's basically everything I do now is stuff that I want to do, and it's all centered around performance. So the afternoon speaking is performance, the DJing is performance, content creation is performance, podcasting is performance, and entertainment. And that's what I want to do. And those are things I value. I don't. I try to get myself. I'm wearing one of those Whoop bands, Apple Watch. Yeah. I tried. My mates all got nice watches. I had a nice watch. I don't wear it. I don't wear it because I don't care about. Like, I want to. Like, I see someone, I go, fuck. I really wish I could save up and I get that. Hublot or that AP or whatever. And then I'm like, actually, why would I want to spend that amount of money and have it on my? What is the point? And I think obviously if you start getting to like hundreds of millions of territory and you start like having more money than God, then you can do all those kind of things. It doesn't matter. It doesn't touch the sides. But for me to spend 20 grand on a watch would be a lot of money. And it's just some of those things that are a bit stupid. And I think you're exactly right. I think people need to focus on what they actually want, not what they think they want, and understanding that, the old adage that sort of goes, money doesn't make you happy or won't bring you happiness. I mean, look, first of all, let me be the judge of that. We'll have a good go at it. Let's earn it and then turn around and say that it doesn't make you happy. Yeah. It fixes a lot of problems that you have that a lot of normal people don't have. That's why it's always interesting when people win the lottery as a couple, and the more often not they break up, because the one thing that united people was the struggle and the grind to get through life, and they were united in that. When you take that away, you actually have to get to know the person you're with, and you're not in the grind. That's why they all sort of, fall apart, because they're actually like, oh God, we don't have any problems, and what the hell were we doing together? And I don't even, and that's what I think is quite interesting from a psychological point of view. But I definitely think you're right. Intentions as to what you want to experience, because life is about experiences, and there's been some good moments. But I would certainly always say try to do what you love, and sometimes it's not always easy. But we are often confined by the perception that we can't do it. And I have in retirement gone along those paths. I wanted to make music. I loved doing it. I teamed up with my music production guy called Alex Grover from Because of Art. We've done 5 tracks so far together. The book writing, a lot of the stuff, the feedback I got from What a Flanker was what we're talking about today was mindset. So I've written 10,000 words of another book on mindset that I want to put out there. And I enjoy those moments. I enjoy, sitting down, having a flat white and enjoying those moments is important. Yes, I like, by technology. So if you're going to waste money, I waste money on cameras and drones and fucking things, but I try to use them all for what I'm doing. Yeah. And I get good feeling about unboxing stuff, but you are exactly right. And we are, goals, I want to DJ in, DC 10. I want to DJ in the Wild Room at High, and in Ibiza. Those are some real goals. Why? Because I know I had a fucking good time doing it, and that's the feeling I want. And I think it's more the feeling than necessarily the kudos of doing it. But sometimes if you're lucky to be doing performance stuff, you get both of them kind of combined. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you get the feeling, the satisfaction for yourself, and you also get the pat on the back from everyone who enjoys it as well.
Exactly.
It's interesting you're saying it. Yeah, it's back to that moments again. That lifetime museum, and with regards to material things, I heard Tyson. We'll talk about Tyson Fury again, but I heard Tyson Fury saying how really articulately put as well, actually, which surprised me. But he said that nothing's ever ours; it's all borrowed, and when we die, it just hangs around, goes somewhere else, or gets left behind, or lost, or whatever else. So this might be a strange one, but I wonder when you were happy. You said there you had you had a Ferrari in your book. You talked about was it an Astra or something that you drove around at the beginning?
Yeah, Vauxhall Astra. Yeah,
Astra. Yeah. When were you happier, driving the Astra or the Ferrari?
Oh, because I was single when I had the Astra, and I was doing all sorts of bits in the Astra. So I said, if the Astra could talk, the Astra would be screaming. So I'm not saying I'm not happily married now. I mean, there were different times. I think, no, look, I think sometimes we have these moments. So I used to know Jamie Roberts, the Welsh player. Whenever he achieved something, he bought himself a watch. So, you know, for win a Six Nations Grand Slam, win a club thing, whatever, he would mark it. And I thought that's quite a nice thing. You know, I'd always said I wanted to have a supercar. I always wanted to say, and I couldn't afford to buy one outright. I got a mate who was a wizard on finance, and I got one. And I was like, you know, for me, that was important. That was like a feeling associated. That was important. That was like, do you know what? I've made it. All those times were hard, you know, everything else. But but then obviously the novelty wears off, and then you've got a car. You're like, fuck, you know what? Can't drive that half the time. You're in England, you know, it's not that sunny. It's just seemed like a good idea at the time, but it was more for the feeling than it was for the car. You know, I like driving fast, but you can't do that. And if you get caught, you know, for me, you get caught speeding, they're just going to hammer you, take your license away, and everything else, and then you'll read about yourself in the Daily Mail, and people, you know, then wait until people get again, and people, how shocked people are. You fucking idiot! Road safety, you mug. And you're like, it's just not worth it. So I think you're right, but that car in particular had some emotional thing for me, but it was a symbol of it, not the actual practical nature of it. And again, it comes down to what you said. It's the emotion attached to these moments. But I do, you know, I do value just, you know, spending time with good people, enjoying interactions and things. And Tyson Fury is right, you know, like kind of, you know, things and commodities and everything else like they all do just you know, sort of pass away. But some things they are milestone for things that you want to have and want to do, and mark certain moments. But I think human emotion is much better. That's what we strive to do so much for, is to get the emotion out of it. But I certainly know that all the performance stuff I do gives me that emotion of happiness, fun. I love making people laugh. I love being the center of attention, and that kind of works quite nicely.
Yeah, I've actually got a Rolex, and I took a lot of heat from it when I was speaking at a mental health event last year, and I was getting hammered for having this Rolex on. But, and again,
why?
I don't know. We just did a work.
Well, they were hammering. Going, oh, come on, mate, you can't talk here, rolling with your Rolex and shit.
Yeah, basically. You love Rolex.
What, people with mental health aren't allowed to have fucking Rolexes on? They are people encouraging. I love that. Yeah.
We'd just done a workout as part of the whole event, so we trained together first, and I left the watch on for the workout, so maybe I was getting a bit of stick for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, maybe, yeah.
But yeah, for me, like you were saying there, it's not about the watch itself. That was the first job I got in the city. The very first commission check I got that was big enough, I went and treated myself as a bit of a reward. So it's it represents something. Haskell, I'd love to hear about performance. You spoke about how that's what makes you happy and feel those emotions, right? And you've done it in so many different categories. Is there any similarities or patterns or formulas that work in, you know, whether it's DJ and playing rugby or any of the other stuff you do, content creation and everything across the board, that you apply to all of them?
Apply anything to... I think for me... do you know what it is? I enjoy what I do, so it's a light-hearted side. It's me having fun doing it. I think sometimes it's assuming a role. So, you know, if we're filming content, it's being, you know, it depends on what mood I'm in. It's being funny and kind of irreverent. You know, with the corporate stuff, it's about delivering a message how I would want to deliver it, but also having fun and humor. And I think humor links everything that I do, and that's really important for me. I think it's making people laugh is what I always want to do. The DJing stuff's different because the DJ, but you're seeking reaction, you know, and a DJ has such a technical aspect. It's the fulfillment for me of getting it right and actually executing a skill. And that's important. I think humor and skill execution is something that I really enjoy. And, you know, even a simple thing as playing darts or beer pong or something like that, just the very fact you nail it. I take such joy from getting that right, or learning a new skill and executing it. And that's that. You know, I'm always trying to learn new stuff. I'm doing like 3 courses at the moment online, and you know, it's taking it in, learning it, remembering it, and executing it. That gives me a lot of fulfillment.
But that last cup in beer pong feels good though, doesn't it, when you get that one?
Great, mate. Great, especially when you stitch your mate says you're shit and you can never get it. You just like, seeing you straight in your head. Yeah.
So I think it's fair to say, just from what you were saying there, then, you start to say at the beginning that the commonality is just being yourself in all of them. That allows you to perform. You being yourself.
Yeah.
I've heard it say that who you truly are is who you are when you're by yourself.
Yes.
And we all have these online personas, or even when you're running out in an England Rugby shirt, you're still, you're representing a team and a country actually at that point as well. Again, maybe a strange one, but who is James Haskell when
the lights are out?
When the lights are out.
When the social media is off and the lights are out. I would say, to be honest with you, I am quite quiet, quite intense. I wouldn't say I'm the same barrel as laughs as I normally am. I think my wife always complains that she gets a different version. Everyone else gets the fun version. She gets a shit version of me. But I'm very happy in my own company, like really happy. Some people are, like you meet comedian. I'm not saying I'm a comedian, but I always wanted to do stand up. But they're quite depressive. They play the clown and then they act as the sad clown off. I'm not really like that. I'm sort of just quite content in my own space. I have to be task orientated. I have to fulfill like I'm doing something. I don't rest very easily. I don't switch off very easily. But I derive simple pleasures from simple things, and I'm a bit, because I think I've got like ADD or attention deficit disorder. I can't, it's just a struggle to focus on one thing. So I'll start a project, do something else, come back to it. But that's me really. And I'll sit and work for hours just uninterrupted. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, that's great. I think we all have both extrovert and introvert, don't we? Some people categorize people as an extrovert, but it's not true. We all have both.
Well, Russell Kane told me, an ambivert who does a bit of everything, and I'm 100% that. I'm 100%. I am 100%. If it's a crowd, I'm in. I'm clothes off, front of the stage, talking shit. If there's nobody, I don't need people. I don't need to talk to people. I don't need to speak to people. I just sit quietly, get on with stuff, do stuff, go for a dog for a walk. I love audiobooks. My favorite part of the day is I take the dog for a walk. If it's like after later on in the day of training or day off, take a cigar, take the dog, put my headphones in, listen to an audiobook. You take the dog for a walk, train him, just chill, unwind. I love that.
It's just funny how often it comes back to the simple things, isn't it? I remember when I got asked that, what's the favourite thing you do? It was coffee on a Sunday morning and either watching Match of the Day or, just something really simple.
Yeah, that's why I'm not a big gamer, but I do have an Xbox, and if I really want to unwind, I just put on something where I go around shooting people, and I just really enjoy it. The only problem is that time flies. I get you just sit there and you're like, oh my god, 3 hours gone by. But I very rarely do that. That's only if I really want to switch off.
Mate, this has been absolutely brilliant. I've loved it. We do the same 3 questions at the end of every episode. They're just sort of quick fire, give listeners something tangible to take away and apply into their life. So the first of these 3 is, I think I know the answer to this already, actually, but is there anything you're particularly excited about that you've either discovered or come across or created recently?
Oh, the music stuff that I'm really excited about. My new track, "Make You Feel," is on pre-order. I don't know when this goes out, but it still probably will be. That's really exciting for me. I think there's something else I discovered that I'm doing a course on called RPR. It's called Reflexive Performance Reset, and it's the most interesting thing I've seen in terms of like your body. It's rubbing certain areas of your body, but it helps release muscles. It's bizarre. I'm actually doing a course in it, and of all the stuff that people try to flog me and sell me, it's a game changer. And I'll do it to my mates, and they'll go from not being able to touch their toes in 10 minutes, and it's the funniest fucking thing. We burst out laughing because they're like, "How'd you do it?" And it's all to do with your nervous system and everything else. It's so super interesting. So those 2 things I think are really kind of floating my boat at the moment.
That's a great one. RPR, you said?
RPR, Reflective Performance Reset, it's called. It's basically based on kinesiology from South Africa. These Americans have rebranded it. Mate, honestly, game changer. A new trainer I started training with, a guy called Marco Finney, did it for me. Our first session, I thought he was mad. I was like, oh my God, who is this bloke? And mate, honestly, it's mental.
All right, I'm going to have a look at that. That's brilliant. Second one of these is, if you had to recommend one habit or routine that's going to drive everyone's performance who's listening along to this, it could be something to do in a morning routine or weekly or whatever whatever you choose, but one habit or routine for everyone to try, what would it be?
I would say actually, first of all, creating a routine and putting things down on a to-do list is a really simple, tangible way of going, you know what? So, you know, we as humans, we seek structure, and actually putting a structure to your life is super simple. So if you wake up, try to wake up at the same time every day, you know, set yourself, I'm going to train, I'm going to eat, and this is what I'm going to do. And then I have a notebook, and I constantly just writing to-dos, crossing it out, getting shit done, and you feel more centered. And I would say one more thing is make your bed. I'll tell you why, make your bed. If all else around you is failing and you're falling apart, you've had a shit day, you're coming back to a made bed. And if you've done nothing else all day, then at least you've made your bed. And who doesn't like lying in a made bed? And it's the simplest tool. Every morning I do it. And if I somehow wasted my day falling out, at least I come back to a made bed, which always feels great. And if I've done loads of things, then you're still getting a made bed. If I've done nothing, then I've done one thing because I made a bed.
It's great. It's funny. We're quite predictable beings, really, aren't we? Like we're talking about the emotions, and that's what we search for. But discipline makes us happy, doesn't it? A made bed makes us happy. So why not?
Made bed discipline makes us happy. Yeah, really happy.
Last one of these is one trait that allowed you to reach the level of performance in all you've done.
Do you know what it was? It's dedication, and like the hard work to it. Not simple hard work. It was like, you know, preparing to work and sacrifice when others weren't prepared to do it. It's putting the extra work in. So, you know, if you had a meeting or training session, you know, from 3 to 4, I'm still out there 4:30 break, and I broke down every area. And you can do it in corporate world. You can do it in anything you do is an execution of a skill or a life thing. Is break it down, work out the process, and practice the core skills that make up that process. And that's what you put the time in. That's the recipe for success in anything. You know, if you want to be the best corporate person, then you need to read around a subject. You need to speak to people who do it better than you do. Get some tips, get some tricks, get some understanding of what you need to do, and execute it out of hours. You know, if you want to be a better footballer, there's no point just going to training sessions. It's what you spend your time doing outside. You know, how many, you know, like David Beckham, their joke, you know, how many free kicks did that bloke take? You know, there's no miracle. It's just he absolutely hammered it. And I think that's my one key thing, I think.
Yeah, brilliant. Hask, thank you so much, mate. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. What a way to end on that bit of advice as well. And the last episode in the season.
Thanks for having me, mate. I loved it. I really appreciate you having me on. Obviously, I'm up with an incredible alumni of guests, so I really appreciate you having me on.
Oh, not at all, mate. And anything I can do to support in the future, any of your projects or anything like that, I'd absolutely love to. Cool. Good luck with the books and the tracks and everything else that are coming up.
Thank you. And send me and I'll post this away and hammer it out there whenever it's all out.
Yeah. All right, legend, mate. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, pal. See you later.
Right. Cheers, Hask. Cheers, mate.